just need to do one thing.
Do you watch soccer, Kiki? Ooh, it's the World Cup.
I do like soccer, sister.
Oh, I'm watching Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. And
They are really good players.
oh, you're not kidding. And the FIFA World Cup is this year. Yay.
Yes, I know.
Your hubby watches it, huh?
Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah. Okay.
All of us watch when
Relax, you guys.
Tina, just 'cause you don't like soccer.
Okay, now I don't like.
All right, shall we start, sisters?
Yes.
Is anyone willing to do the opening prayer? You do it?
I will.
All right, thank you.
Heavenly Father, my Blessed Mother, thank you for allowing us to be gathered in your name for our ongoing learning and classes by our beloved Sister Kiki. Illuminate her and us for the wisdom, plant seeds so that we may be able to grow spiritually, emotionally, to be able to be better instruments and bless all of our learning and bless everyone, including those that could not make this class and our mentors as well. And that we ask permission to open this class for this evening. So be it.
And so it is. Thank you, sister.
Mm.
All right. So today we will continue the study of the divine laws. And we will probably need another class on this one because I do think that we can't rush, definitely, in those topics. So I just added here a moral laws part 3. And as always, please make sure to bring your comments, your questions, and I'll be happy to stop. So today I'm going to go very, very quick on the recap because we do have a lot for us to discuss. So just make sure that we are on the same page. Spiritism is the 3 big pillars of philosophy, science, and religion. So we have to always look for the 3 of them for our spiritual awakening. And there are 5 principal beliefs. The first one is the existence of God as the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. The second is the existence of the spirit and their survival after death, as well as the relation that we have with them. It doesn't stop only in the material world. Third is the ability for us to reincarnate in other bodies, in other lives, but this means for us to keep progressing, for us to revisit and to keep exercising moral strengths that we still have to develop. The multitude of inhabited worlds, so planet Earth is not the only one. Everything that we see in the universe is inhabited in many different dimensions. Some worlds are more primitive, some worlds are happier than ours, and we are in the movement to become a world of regeneration after coming a long time of a world of trials and expiation. So we are in this transition right now. And as I mentioned, the ability to communicate with the spirits is also a huge belief of Spiritism. And then I'm going to jump right to the moral laws, which are the guardrails to support us to detach from the material vices, because according to the spirits on high, this is exactly what will help us to live according to all God's law. So all the 11 laws that we see here are the ones that will always help us to find if we are doing right or we are doing wrong. Remembering that the conscience is where all these laws are written. So we cannot say that we didn't do better because we didn't know, because our conscience knows. So in case of any doubt, stop, connect with your higher self, connect with your mentor, and you will be able to discern evil and good. And the more evolved we are, the easier it's going to be for us to have that discernment. So out of all the laws that we saw the divine law and the natural law, which is God helping us to understand the harmony between the realms, the harmony between matter and spirit. So this is the duality of good and evil that we were saying, that is important that we find the right balance. Jesus was this harmonious being between matter and spirit, although he is a Christ's soul. So Jesus, as being our role model, he told us the golden rule: love God above all things and your neighbor as yourself. This is the whole of the law and the prophets. So if in doubt, put yourselves in the shoes of your brothers and sisters, and then we will never go wrong. The second law is the law of worship, which is nothing more than the elevation of our thoughts towards the Creator. This is when we are able to really connect ourselves to God, to the high spirituality, and then we will be able to humble ourselves, understand that we are co-creators with God. And Jesus, and I always like to bring Jesus' perspective to all these laws, so then we can make things more tangible for us. So what Jesus told us is, ask and you shall receive. Whatever you may ask for in prayer, believe you will receive it. So create this connection with your higher self, and you will be able to have clarity on your path forward. And the law of labor, because labor is the mean for us to develop our intellectual and our moral intelligence. So it's not for us just to keep waiting for God to solve our problems, because whenever we have discernment, whenever we have potential to act on something, this is already the opportunity that is being given to us, because our mentors are already working with us with the suggestions that are important. Excuse me, with the suggestions that are important for us to be able to move along. So what Jesus tells us is, help yourself and heaven will help you. The needs of the body are followed by the needs of the spirit. After physical nourishment, humans need spiritual nourishment, and it is thus that humans pass from the primitive to civilized state. So we all have to eat every single day. We all have to take shower. We all have to take care of our body. So also let's make sure that we are nourishing our spirit. And when we say nourish our spirit, is also to nourish our moral values. Now, let's see the continuation of the laws. As I mentioned, I think that we will take one more class on moral laws, and today I'm expecting to be able to talk about these four. So let's start with the law of reproduction, and I know that is being a lot of discussion on this. What comes from the Spirit on high is that all beings must contribute to help general progress move forward in every way possible. The act of assisting in this process of improvement is the way in which humanity can participate in carrying out divine plans. C. Participate in carrying out divine plans. Not always it is up to us to decide how or when to reproduce. But this is a natural law. We know, because this is exactly what happens with the entire animal kingdom, including human beings. But then there is discussion around, Allan Kardec brings discussions around an overcrowded world. What happens if we just keep reproducing without no balance? And then what the Spirit tells us is that there is a perfect balance. The human species sees only a small corner of the universe, and such it is unable to recognize the harmony of the whole. So yes, if we think only about the planet Earth and how we die and new people are born, what happens with the people that died? If they have to incarnate in planet Earth, then of course it's going to be an overcrowded place. But because there is the law of progress, we are also distributed in other different planets, just like planet Earth. So there is a perfect balance, and we should not be concerned about that. The other thing was a question around development of the human race. What Allan Kardec asks, excuse me, is around we know that at the prehistoric time, we had one body shape and we had one specific set of characteristics. And now what? What will keep happening with us? And then the Spirit tells us that a new group of humans, replaced by the evolved humans of today, more perfect races will descend the present one. I don't know if this is going to be news for some of you, but we've been hearing more and more that more evolved spirits are being incarnated for a couple of years until now, because they are already bringing some sense of high morality for us. And that's why it's so common to see children having such strong opinion about moral needs, and those are spirits with more moral evolvement, that they are coming specifically to bring this, to speed up some discussions that are still very punctual in some places of earth. So this development is happening, this replacement is happening, but we are the humans of tomorrow. So that's why the more we evolve ourselves, the better we are going to support the humankind in our hopefully next life. And as I mentioned about the prehistorical characteristics, we keep changing. So new physical characteristics, Allan Kardec asked if we are going to have new physical characteristics during this transition. And then the spirits say that the more developed intelligence, learning to leverage the forces of nature. So because in the past we had to use our body power to survive. Remember that we have the instinct of survival. This is the type of body that we needed. But now our intelligence is teaching us how to leverage the power of nature to support us. So the new characteristic is not necessarily going to be on our body, but it's going to be on our intellect. And with our intellect is going to come more natural senses. So things like mediumship, that we know that it's inherent of humankind, it's going to be easier for us to communicate. If anyone is interested in more information about the history of the humanity, there is an interesting book called On the Way to the Light, written by Emmanuel Psychographic by Chico Xavier, that elaborates a lot about all of this. So I highly recommend you to take a look on that, besides reading the Genesis. But one thing that is really important for us to think about how to use this reproduction in favor of the good. God has given human beings a power that should be used for the general good and not for abuse. What does it mean? It means that there are some aspects of the reproduction that we all have to be very careful. And science has been helping all of us to support us in this control and make sure that we are doing everything with conscience of our role and how to work in this law. About contraceptive methods. It says, contraceptive methods created solely to satisfy sexual desires prove the power of the body over the soul and show how deeply human beings have become immersed in their material existence. So yes, of course we have to be conscious about getting pregnant and about giving the spirituality, the ability of reincarnating a body. But once we do that only because of our vanity, of our sexuality, this might mean that we might be influencing somehow a history of a spirit that might have to come. Of course, that anything that needs to happen is going to happen, and we know that. But it's really for us to be conscient about how to use the contraceptive methods. Another topic that came in the Spirit's book was the marriage and the celibacy. This is said as a human law that contradicts the nature. There's no need for that. The human law change while natural law is constant. So there is nothing that really matters in terms of how helpful is this being for the humankind, for your brothers and your sisters. It's not being helpful at all. So it doesn't have to exist. And then another question was around polygamy. And again, it's said as a human invention, a social custom adapted to the circumstances of specific nations and populations. And we know that exists until nowadays. And it says that it will gradually disappear in these populations as they improve socially. Socially. These were the main topics on top of reproduction, and there is nothing discussing about abortion, which I know it's something really strong being discussed here in US today. I can look for more information, and we can have a very specific discussion on that if there is desire for that. But today we're not going to touch that specific topic because I would like to, for now, and for today, just stay on the learnings of the Spirit's book, which we know was written in 1862. So abortion was really not something that was discussed in that time, but should be discussed in this lifetime. So whoever is interested, we can come back to this topic. And then come Jesus to kind of expand a little bit more when we think about reproduction. Jesus challenges us on this material ties. He says in one passage, he was doing the gospel, and then someone comes and say, Jesus, your mother and your brothers are outside. And then Jesus challenges and say, who is my mother and who are my brothers? And looking at those who are seated around him, he said, these are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does God's will is my brother, my sister, and my mother. So Jesus here is already expanding our understanding of family ties. Not because his mother, his more earthly mother, our beloved Mother Mary, was not his mother, but really for us to be able to expand our understanding of family and understand that beyond what is our earthly ties, we have responsibilities with all of those who are surrounding us. All of those who are our brothers, all of those who are our sisters, we do have a responsibility to support them in their struggles and to be kind with them, just as if we would be with our own family. So one thing for us to keep in mind. And before I go to the next law, any questions, any comments? Okay. So the fifth law is the law of preservation. And I thought I have discussed about this, but no. The law of preservation says that regardless of intelligence, it is given to all living creatures, from animals to plants and to us. In some, it is purely mechanical, while in others, it is associated with reasons. Humankind, for instance. Life is necessary for the improvement of beings. All living beings feel it instinctively without understanding it. And it's really interesting because we all have this sense of survival. We all have this sense of protection because this is part of us. We want to keep our life, and this is an instinct that even God granted us with because life is sacred. Our life is something that all of us should be looking for to take care of it. And if not us, who else will take care of our own life? So, this is our very first responsibility to take care of our life. And that's why taking care of our body, taking care of our soul, taking care of our mind is really important. And to that point, I will bring again the movie Inside Out because this movie is showing us that we are granted with very important emotions, and those emotions in combination with one another in simple or complex way are the ones that will support us also in this law of preservation. So in here those are the characters, and I will introduce you to those if you do not know them. So this is the joy. Joy is responsible to, well, you all know, but joy is really responsible to support us on the balance of laughing and making the positive side out of everything. This one is sadness, which helps us to kind of calm down our anxiety a little bit and to kind of balance the perspectives. And this is important because then we have a realistic point of view of life. This one is fear, and fear is one of the most important ones in the preservation because he helps us to see which are the things that we have to be careful about, with things like as simple as if we are chewing an edge of something, or if we should be careful with a huge animal or something like that. Those are instincts that we carry. This one is the angry guy, which helps us also to have this passion, this energy, the instinct of doing something. And then the green one is the disgust. And the disgust is also really, really important with this sense of preservation. It helps us to balance what looks like and what doesn't look like. And friends, this is why it is important that we work on something that we discussed last week, that Sonia really reminded us that we don't have that, but it's something that the more that we evolve, the better it is, which is our emotional balance, which is called emotional intelligence. The emotional intelligence is when we are able to balance the influence of all of our emotions on our lives. All of them are important. So it's not because we are angry that we should not acknowledge that emotion. We must acknowledge that emotion, and we must understand that emotion and balance that with all the others. So then we can have a prosperous life and a life that is profitable in terms of progress. So just again, food for thought. Would someone say something?
No.
No? Okay. So a couple of highlights on the laws of preservation that I think that are important for us. One is God always grants to us everything that it will be necessary for us to preserve ourselves. What happens is that as we evolve our intelligence, we just expanded what is preservation and what is abuse. And that's why we have to be very careful, because we always have means for everything that we need in terms of living, but we ended up abusing of the natural resources to useless luxuries, limiting the reach of the benefit of nature for some. And this is how we ended up where we are nowadays. We know that some have so much and some others have so little. And one of the main reasons is because there is no right distribution between resources. I'm not talking about money, although money is a type of resource, but we are talking about the earthly resources. And this is a point that the spirits brings to us. When someone lacks the means to survive, it's not only a trial for them, but also an opportunity for the strongers to support. So if any of us have ever been or will be or is going through a situation where we are lacking any type of means, this not only suggests that it is something that you have to work on giving value to whatever resource is lacking, but also for you to be humble enough to look for support and then have someone that definitely will be able to support. And one interesting thing that Allan Kardec asks is, what about the resources in other planets? Are they the same? And then what they tell us is that in other worlds, other foods will suit being's body. So the food that we eat today will be more dense in more elevated worlds, which means these specific foods not going to be necessary there. But in the other hand, there will be other different fruits that will suit the body that we will acquire hopefully in a couple of lives moving forward. And then there is the saying about enjoying the fruits of the earth. And when thinking about the fruits of the earth, we should really expand what we are calling the fruits, because it's not only about the food itself, it's really about all the resources that are available out there. But one thing is, God does not impose a duty without providing the means of carrying it out. So never we are going to lack resource. Never. I know that sometimes we might find ourselves in a very challenging time. We might think that we do not have the resources, but we do. Even if the resource is our intelligence, is the courage for us to change and to find different means for us to achieve our goal, for us to achieve the objective. So keep in mind that although we know that we are scarce in some resources, we will never lack all of them. And then there is a question on temptations. Why do we have to go through temptations? Why do we have to have so many good things available for us? And this is to help us develop reason, protecting us from the excesses. So going back to our natural instincts, to our emotions, that helps us to balance what is too much and what is too little. The temptation is exactly the same, to help us to develop that reason that will let us know, Chris, maybe you don't have to eat a whole pizza. Maybe you can eat 2 pizzas. And of course, I'm just giving here a simple example, but this is for us to learn on the things that we have to use our reason and do not give on the unbalance of our emotions. And that's why, friends, finding the intelligence of how to manage our emotions is so important, because this is what will help us to build up our thoughts that will be supported by our willpower. So if I just surrender to any emotion that is unbalanced in myself, that will trigger me thoughts that cannot get out of my head, but that will have to fight with my willpower. And this is when sometimes we just get lost. So that's why we have to find the harmony between our emotions, our thoughts, and our willpower. And then always the limits, we will always have limits that will coincide with our needs. I know that sometimes we may feel like we need more, but mostly, if not a trial, mostly we will have exactly what is necessary for us to survive. And then one thing that they call our attention is, for those who enhance pleasure in all sorts of excesses are just punishing themselves because they are delaying their progress. And this is also connected to the conversation that we had, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, about looking for our own comfort. We should do that. That's exactly the reason why we are evolving our intelligence. But if we are looking for pleasure in all sorts of excesses, we should be very careful with that. And that's why the nightly review is always recommended for us to reassess our needs and our wants. So this is the balance that takes us to the third pillar, which is the difference between the necessary and the superfluous things. This is given to us by intuition and some others by experience. How many of us had to go through something and we had to look back and say, I didn't need all of that, or I still don't need all of that? And it's interesting because every time that I look at my wardrobe, I think to myself, I could use less shoes. I only have two feet. And this is an assessment that we should always do to ourselves, because it's very common. It's easy for us to slip away and then see all of a sudden we have way more than what we need. So this is always a good reminder for us to really look at what is necessary and what is not, what is superfluous. And one thing that we have to be very, very careful always is that our vices, they create wants, not real needs. And this statement itself could be one whole discussion for all of us, because at some point in life, we lose sight of what we really want and what we really need. And this is the point that we should always be careful, because there is no beauty on, or there is no virtue, sorry, that's the word. There is no virtue on restraining yourself from everything if you do not do something in favor of your brother or sister. So it's not only about selling all your stuff and being homeless just because you do not want to have anything that is more than what you need. It's important that once we do something like that, we support those brothers and sisters. And let us remember that our first responsibility is to take care of our life. So if we are neglecting with our life, we are not doing the right thing. We are doing the wrong thing. One thing that they tell us is, those who hoard the goods of the earth to the detriment of others will answer for the poverty they are causing. So this is very insightful when we are thinking about all those companies that sometimes are just being so excuse me, causing so much for others, causing bad for so many people. We should be careful what type of relationship we are building with them, and if we are just encouraging them to keep this type of behavior. And then again, the voluntary suffering is worthless when it is not useful to others. Focus the time doing good, and this will please God. So if all of a sudden I decide to give all the shoes and just wear flip-flops, that's not going to help anyhow if I really do not do the good. So just be careful with the type of suffering that we are causing to ourselves with the intention of doing the good. And what Jesus tells us about this is, blessed are the poor in spirit. Kingdom of heaven is for the humble and not for the proud. This is Jesus reminding us that we do not have to have too many acquisitions or too many acquaintances for us to go to heaven. But it's really for us to be happy with all the resources that are given to us. And always remembering that we will never lack anything that is necessary for our own progress. Any questions? Any comments on this one? While I take my water. I'm loud. All right. So now the law of destruction. This one is very interesting and very important, especially for the time being. It said, everything must be destroyed so that it may be renewed. What you call destruction is only a transformation to renew and improve living beings. And this is from the God's perspective, right? Of course, that we also, as human beings, we also destroy, so then we can build things. And I brought four specific questions, and I know that this is too much, but bear with me and I will take you through each one of them for us to discuss. But one thing that the Spirit tells us, what is necessary and what is abuse, distraction. God is the one making that call. So it's not for us to say, this is fair, this is not fair, this is good, this is bad. Everything that happens, sometimes we feel like it's not fair, but this is creating the harmony that we were discussing just a couple of slides ago, also with the balance of the spirits that are inhabiting this planet. If there are too many people that are not in attunement with this planet, or they have done their mission, or they have gone through whatever experience they had to, they will be redistributed. So everything is in harmony, and anything that goes beyond what is needed is an excess. And of course, that sometimes we human beings create those excesses that will cause destruction. But there is one type of destruction that even if we wanted, we can't change much, which is the destructive scourges, which are the ones that are really hard for us to predict. And these are the ones that are really necessary to speed up advancements. And it's hard for us to say on the shoes that we are right now, because we are going through scourges of pandemic, war, natural disasters all the times. And then one question that Allan Kardec makes to the spirits is, can't God just use other methods? And then the answer is yes, and those methods are used every single day. But because we are so little affected by those big by those small changes, sometimes this type of speed up is necessary to support us to awake in some specific skills, in some specific moral skills. So they say such events are often needed to spur faster development and achieve in only a few years what would otherwise have taken centuries to accomplish. And then Allan Kardec says, but good people fall victim to these scourges just as much as bad people do. Is it fair? And among the answers, this is what I wanted to highlight. On earth, human beings measure everything against their physical lives. After death, they see things differently and feel that the physical life is nothing. A century in your world is but a flash in eternity, are no significance and only a lesson that will serve you in everything else. If you viewed life on earth for what it truly is, and as being so small in comparison to infinity, you would attach much less importance to it. If we could elevate ourselves to contemplate the human race as a whole, the calamities that seem so terrible now would be reduced to passing storms in the destiny of the world. So, what does it mean that, again, as hard as it is for us to look at the events that are happening right now, that are just scourging the world, and so many people are suffering, maybe even all of us are suffering or have suffered with the loss of someone that is very dear to us, this is part of the advancement of the world. And even though it might cause us and it's suffering in days, sometimes even years, it's not going to be everything. And as Emmanuel used to say to Chico Xavier, these too shall pass. So And then he say, but those destructive plagues physically useful despite the evils prompted by them? And then the answer is yes. They sometimes change the state of a region, but the good that results from them is often enjoyed by future generations. And friends, who's to say that there are so many good emerging from out of the bad situations that we are going through with COVID, with the war? And of course, I'm just naming the ones that we are living right now. But what I'm trying to say is if we are able to transform something out of the situation that we are going through, then we will be doing something good, not only for us, but also for the others. It's going to be easier for us to endure this destruction, this massive destruction, but also for us to be doing something that can really support. So, could such calamities also be a moral trial for human beings, forcing them to suffer the hardest struggles? And then the answer is they are trials that provide them with the opportunity to exercise the intelligence. So, again, the importance for us to use our intelligence to do something for the good, showing their patience and resignation, displaying self sacrifice, disinterestedness, and love for their neighbor, if they are not dominated by selfishness. And this, my friends, is again a point for us to think how much of our attitudes are being thinking on ourselves and how much of our attitudes are thinking on the others. Oh, but I don't like the way that this person do this, I don't like the way that that person do that. What are we doing? What is on our control? What is being asked of us for us to support those who are in need? And when I say those who are in need, are those who do not have the means to be as protected as we are. So this is again food for thought. And then one interesting thing that he asks is, do human beings have the power to avert the terrors that now afflict them? Some of them, but not as commonly believed. Many of those plagues are the consequence of their lack of foresight. I mean, isn't this interesting that it was written in 1865? It looked like it was just written. Therefore, as they acquire knowledge and experience, they are able to avert them. They can prevent their occurrence when they have determined their cause. Consequently, among the misfortunes that plague humanity, there are some of a general nature that are imposed by God's plans, and the effect of which is felt more or less by each individual. Human beings cannot do nothing but accept God's will, yet they often aggravate their own pain and suffering due to their negligence. So, friends, if we are going through what we are going through right now, again, how much for us to think, how much for us to reflect on the attitude that we are having right now, not only with ourselves, but also all of those who are surrounding us. And then there is more discussion on destruction. There is discussion on war. The war is nothing more overpowering of the animal nature over the spiritual nature and the fulfillment of their passions. But God's purpose in making war necessary is for us to have more saying on freedom and progress. And I know it's hard, but this is also part of our evolution. Murder is a natural atrocious act that cuts short a fellow being's atonement or mission. God judges the intention rather than just the deed. Because one of the questions is around if the person has to kill someone because they are in the war, what does it mean? Is this person going to be judged? And then it comes this answer. But one important thing is, again, it's not up to us to cut short anyone's life. either because we will be influencing on their attunements or in their mission. Cruelty is linked with the worst form of destruction. So while destruction is necessary, cruelty will not. But then one question is, what about those very low spirits that sometimes are just like doing atrocities in good places? Low spirits may incarnate among more advanced human beings in the hope of advancing themselves. But when the trial is too difficult, their rudimentary nature prevails. So this also reminds us the influence that we have in embracing and supporting those people. And then there is more discussions on dwelling in capital punishments, which are things that we do not have. I mean, capital punishment we still have, but one of the things that they say about death penalty is that this will disappear as we evolve. And really what we should be looking for to do is to protect ourselves from those dangerous individuals, but not necessarily by killing them, but opening the door for repentance rather than closing the door to them. And again, we know that there is also opportunity for us to stay here one night long discussing about our prison system. And what Jesus tells us is that, for verily I say to you, if you had faith as a mustard seed, you would say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it would move, and nothing would be impossible for you. So, my friends, this is for us to remember that everything is in harmony. Everything is in harmony. And our duty is always to find how we can create positive impact in wherever environment we are, even if it's an environment of destruction. We should believe that God is empowering us with whatever is necessary for us to support that destruction to be a means for renewal. And then the last law for today is going to be the law of society, which is very dear and interesting. Certainly, God made human beings to live in a society. God has given human beings speech and the other faculties they need for a social life, for a purpose. So it is important that we indulge our social life because it is by living with others that we will be able to evolve, it will be able to progress. Because not always we will find in a society people that are easy to talk. We not always we will find those who are pleasant for us to be with. But truly we will find those who need us. And I always like to remember the St. Francis of Assisi for us to be the light where there is darkness. If we just keep ourselves into a shelter, we will not be able to be a light anywhere, and it's going to be useless. So things that are asked for the spirits. Humans must progress and they cannot do it alone. We do not have the faculties that are necessary for us to just by reflecting for us to evolve. We have to have those interactions. So human beings instinctively seek association, and all people are meant to help advance progress by helping one another. So extending our hand in every single way that is possible is part of our journey. And every time that we find someone that is difficult, we should not think about getting rid of that person. Oh, I hate that boss. Oh, I don't like that client. Oh, that person does do and that for me. Those are the ones who need you. And Chico Xavier also used to say something that was very interesting. When someone is do not deserve the love is when this person needs at most. So we should think about that. Sometimes we don't want to not even talk to someone, but that's the moment that we are in need of giving love. And then there are questions around those who choose a life of isolation. And then what the spirits say is that isolation for itself, it's not really helpful in any ways. It's a selfish satisfaction. The best of all attunements is to do more good than evil. period. However, we decide to do that, that's going to be good for our progress and to support others. But those who retreat from society seeking tranquility for certain kinds of labor, they are not selfish since their work is for the general good. One very common discussion that we have whenever we talk about this topic is about the monk that just go somewhere and they just keep praying all day long. Keep pray is one very important step of everything that we are doing. For those who are being able to go to our Sunday services, you guys saw the urge from Mother Mary for us through Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, asking for us to be more vigilant and for us to be in prayers, because we are going through a moment that is requiring from us this positive thinking, this positive attitude. So this is also supporting the entire planet with the energy. And then the other topic that he brings, but I also do not want to spend too much time on, is the family ties with regards to the law of society. And here he brings very specific on the difference between the family ties on animals and on human beings. And what they explain to us is that animals live a physical life and not a moral life. So the tenderness of a mother for her young is prompted by the instinct of self-preservation for her offspring. When these beings are able to take care of themselves, her job's done. Nature asks no more of her, and she abandons them to busy herself with the next newborns. But of course, that we discussed about family ties when we were discussing about reincarnation. And this is something that we should keep in mind when thinking when thinking about the reasons why we are all together in family in this lifetime. And to finalize, I just wanted for us to think what Jesus tells us. Blessed are the merciful, for they themselves shall receive mercy. I do not tell you to forgive up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7 times. And this is to remind us that being a society, being a society is really what will support us to exercise this moral value, the value of being merciful, the value of being compassionate, the value of being tolerant, the value of being forgiving to all of those who trespass against us, or for us to be humble enough to ask for forgiveness for all of those which we have offended. So, very important for us. And that's it for today, friends. I said that I wouldn't rush, but I had to rush a little bit. Any questions, any comments? It's a lot to think, right? I mean, we're going through so much right now in terms of destruction, reproduction, survival. I think that all of these are things for us to digest and reflect.
Yeah, I think the vibration, I think of the change does affect people. It's like the full moon. You know how they say the full moon comes out and people just act this way or that way? Well, it's like the full moon is every day and every night, because people are definitely experiencing something and they're not knowing what it is. They're not knowing that they need to sit down with themselves and reevaluate what's going on.
Yeah. And in this reevaluation, Gina, I think it's really important for us to think, what role do I want to play in the world right now? Do I want to sit back and watch, or do I want to have an active play of supporting those who are in need? Or do I think that I am in more need than anyone else? You know what I'm saying? So I think it prompts us to reflect on, what do we want to do with our time during this lifetime.
Well, the only thing we can do is be an example. I mean, and pray for others. That's it.
Yeah,
Because sure, because they're not necessarily in my house. We just become aware of what's going on in our community or in our city or you know in our
exactly.
environment. So
Yeah, and I think that this is the part that I think it's important because when you see what your community is in need and how you can support, I feel like this is the type of reflection that we can do, and we will see that we can help in so many different ways. I mean, things that you do, like you give clothes for some who are in need, or you give food for some who are in need, or just a smile whenever we are in a grocery. So those types of small things are the things that we can do in a very small basis that sometimes we don't even know the impact that is going to have in someone's life. Either because that will represent a hope in a moment where the person was feeling hopeless, or that will just give strength in a moment that that person was feeling weak. And we can be instruments of God in very small things that we don't even imagine.
true.
And that comes with reflection, right? Sister, you're on
You're
mute.
you're on mute, Sonia.
What I wanted to say was there was a comment that you made about doing good or people coming before us and do the right thing. Um, we also learned that the karma. Okay, that's one, and that's for your learning. So it goes both ways. That's how I see it. So you
Yeah.
don't know if somebody comes in your life um, for a debt that you have or something you owe or for a test. We're being tested versus or forgiveness, whatever it might be. Um, because I think there's less, even if there's lessons to learn all the time from, um, I think for most people, at least that's what I encounter with the work I do. And sometimes I'm persistent and I know it's good for somebody and they don't want it. And so I just leave them alone, but at least I tried. And then I feel good about it because it's like, well, okay, well, who am I to say that, that's what's good for them? And I just leave them alone,
Yeah. Yeah,
you know.
exactly, sister. And you're being like, this is really smart. Like we can offer help just for those who are willing to receive help.
Mhm.
Right. But I think that there is one thing, and of course, that this is outside of your work because you work with this. But for all others who do not work doing what you do, I feel like extending a hand for those who ask for help, that is
Mhm.
our duty. We shouldn't even think about not helping someone that come and ask for help.
Mhm.
But if we perceive that someone needs help and then we offer, and then there are the right ways of offering those help, but being available, this is charity. This is when we are able to go above and
Yeah.
beyond, and we are just able to perceive when someone is in need, where we step back from our own pain. That's when I remember about Jesus saying, resign yourself, because we get rid of our own needs for us to be able to perceive the other person's need. And then we are, maybe that person needs just a hello. Let me see if he or she needs a hi. And that's the help. We are just giving attention. And this attention can give courage. Again, that attention can give strength.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless they tell you, how do you know what I need?
Exactly. Yeah, but and that's exactly why I think what you do is brilliant. Like you know how to help people. We have so much to learn with you, sister.
I don't know about that because that's what it's like, how do you know what I need, lady? And so, my only, well, this is what we think is the best for you, but you can say yay or nay, and I don't know. I think that's interesting when people do that. But the flip side of it is I understand that emotionally they're going through a whole lot to process and, to get and to work through. And that's what happened to me when I, started with my seizures. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is a life-changing event. And it still is, but then the flip side of it is, okay, what's the lesson? What's, why, what's the, the humility, all that stuff that come with it. So it's just go through the journey,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's opportunity to learn all the way.
and instead of saying, why me, why not you? So
Yeah, that's true.
anyway,
But each one of us is going through a situation that needs to learn. So that's the beauty, because all of us need help in some sort of level.
yeah,
And if we are able to realize that, that's when things get easier, because we are able to embrace help as we help others. So as we I think we received a message from a mentor 1 or 2 weeks ago saying that our thorns serve as, you remember that?
yeah,
Our thorns, while
sure.
they cause suffering on us,
Mhm.
they also have the ability to be a
Protect us.
medication for the thorns of our brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And that's why charity is so important, because
Mhm.
when we give, um, we are able to not only release the pain of our brothers and sisters, but also ours. So
Gina's my helper.
you both are my helpers.
Uh-oh.
All right,
Oh,
friends. Any
gosh.
more comments or questions or anything to add?
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm just thinking that back in the olden days, it was easier to see who was poor in your neighborhood. And just because a person is in a camper or living out of their car, nowadays a lot of them, they want it like that. It's hard to say, um, this person needs me.
Yep.
You can go over there and you can ask them.
Mhm.
I've asked people, if they want help, or is there something I can
Mhm.
get you, do you need?
Yep.
And they'll tell me what they'd like to have. And then they say, you want to buy some food stamps? Well, that tells they got resources.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So we're judging because they live here, though, this particular way, that they don't have nothing. And that's not the case.
Exactly. And Gina, a place that taught me so much about that in India, because when I was there, for me at some point I didn't know who was poor and who was humble.
Yes.
They don't need, I mean, most of the people that I saw, not all of them need so many jewelries or so many beautiful scarves. They are
Mhm.
simple because they are simple, and that's it.
That's
And
it, right?
for me that was a very humble lesson, because
And wear more expensive earrings than that's where their
yeah,
money is. It's on their ears or around their neck. That's their goal.
yeah,
And that's okay. That's just their culture.
yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
spend what I pay for a house, they buy and put it on their ear.
Yeah, but it's interesting because you don't know.
I want to share a quick story. I had a doctor who it's like, you've got to help this person because they're gonna, die. And the gentleman was homeless, and he was also using methamphetamine. But the doctor looked beyond that and said, Sonia, you've got to help them. I said, okay. So I spend a lot of time looking. They transfer me and transfer me, and I was trusting. I had that faith that I was going to find something for him, and I did. So the interesting piece was, the person that was helping me said, okay, we're going to help them. I said, because this man is expected to die within the next 4 months. And I was honest. I said, he's using drugs. Okay, fine. And so I found something for him, and I called his wife, And I told her, I said, can you please have him call me? I have something for you guys. Do you know they never called me back? So I had to go to the physician and I said, this is what I found. This is what I did. They're not returning my call, which tells me that they would rather be in their situation because the man knows he's going to die. So he's either going to use more or he's going to go through withdrawals. And I don't think he's going to do that. So because I explained that to her, we both left it alone, and I don't know where he is or anything, but I felt good because I said, okay, we could help him if he wants it, but it also made sense to me why he wouldn't call me back. So I'm like, all we can do is, pray for this gentleman, and it'll be at the end of his journey, and that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was sad.
Yeah, sister, it's a huge story.
Yeah, it was sad, but I can't do nothing more.
Yeah. It's not up to us, each one of
Yeah.
us. And remember that it's not up to us to, it is for us, of course, to support all of those in their struggles as much as we can.
Mhm.
But it's not up to us to stop any of their trials or any of their missions. So we just have to sit back.
Yeah.
That's why they call it free will.
Exactly. Free
Or
will.
don't get sued. The hospital doesn't get sued.
All right.
That's right.
So let us close our eyes. And as we are connected with our mentors and the mentors of this group, we give thanks for the blessed opportunity to have those discussions to enlighten ourselves, to enlighten our souls, to awake our divine senses that are dormant on us, or for us to speed up the values that are important for us to evolve in this lifetime. Dear God, we have so many opportunities asking for us. So please help us to have in our conscience the triggers on how we can be helpful while we still being respectful to all of those who are going through any of their situation. As Emmanuel told us, love is the silent hope of heaven, awaiting the evolution of all principles while respecting the decision of all consciences. So help us to help the awake of the principles, and help us to have the patience to watch all of those who are making their own decisions. May we be instruments of light to all of those who think of us or who come to us. May your light be present in our house, in our neighbor, and get together with so many other lights that are vibrating positive for planet Earth, where all of us can feel the love from our Lord Jesus Christ. May there be peace on earth, and may that peace start within our heart. Thank you for this opportunity, and we humbly ask for permission to close tonight's study. And so be it. And so be it. Amen. All right, friends. Thank you so much. I see you all next week.
Okay,
All right.
you take care of yourself.
Take care.